Hello. In this week's Torah portion, Vayikra, we begin the study of animal sacrifices. According to Maimonides, God instituted them as a concession to what was being practiced at the time to communicate with the divine. It was restricted to a specific place, the temple, specific times, and could be carried out only by specific people, the Kohanim. Then the temple was destroyed 2,000 years ago, and sacrifices could no longer be performed. The rabbi said there was still one way to communicate with God, prayer. This could be done at any time, in any place, and by anybody. But prayer is just words. People felt deeply that they will not get something for nothing. They were convinced that they had to give something to God in exchange for God granting their petition. They felt that God wants something more than words, something more personal in exchange for favors. So the rabbi came up with an idea. Let people offer their hunger, their pain. Let them fast. Take rain, for example. Later in Leviticus it says, "If you follow my laws and faithfully observe my commandments, I will grant you rains in their season, so that the earth shall yield its produce and the trees of the field their fruits." Unquote. Rain meant the difference between food and famine. No rain meant no water to drink and no crops. No crops meant no food. So if the rain was late in coming, the ancient rabbis would order the community to fast. In Tractate Ta'anit, the tractate reserved for fasts, the Mishnah says, quote, "If the 17th of Mar Heshvan came and no rain fell, the distinguished individuals begin to fast 3 dawn to dusk fasts. If the new moon of Kislev came and still no rain fell, the Bet Din orders the entire community to fast 3 dawn to dusk fasts." Unquote. The Gemara adds, the sages taught in a Baraita, a person must not say, "I'm only a student and therefore I'm not worthy to consider myself a distinguished individual and therefore I should not fast." Rather, all students of the sages are considered distinguished. Unquote. In other words, for purposes of fasting, even students must consider themselves distinguished. Nice try. But the only fasting the Torah mandates is Yom Kippur. It does not mandate or even mention fasting for rain or any other purpose. That practice was instituted by the rabbis. It is rarely done nowadays, but it is done. The Chief Rabbis of Israel sometimes call for it. In 2017, Chief Rabbi Goldstein of Cape Town, South Africa, called for all South African Jews to fast for a half day for rain in their country. Now the idea is being revived in the state of Israel, which is being hard hit by the coronavirus. The Ashkenazi Chief Rabbi of Israel, David Lau, called for a fast day on Erev Rosh Hashanah Nisan, in response to the coronavirus epidemic. He wrote, quote, "According to Rabbi Yehoshua in the Talmud, the world was created in Nisan. So it is the eve of a new year, a day of prayer and supplication. I ask that anyone who is able to take it upon themselves to fast even for half a day. Whoever has difficulty fasting for a health issue should take upon themselves to refrain from speaking, that is, to engage in a fast of silence. We must engage in soul searching. As believing Jews, we know that the hand of providence is behind this and that it comes to tell us something. Our sages said in the Talmud, a man does not hurt his finger in this world unless it has been decreed on high. And may our benevolent God listen to our prayers and respond to them, delivering us from all harsh decrees and saving with his abundant mercies his people Israel and all people in need the world over." Unquote. Many rabbis echoed the call, including the leader of the Lithuanian Jewish World and the Bet Din of Manchester, United Kingdom. But Chabad Rabbi Brown, a member of the Bet Din in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, which has also been hit hard by the coronavirus, rejected the call. Quote, "I'm asking people not to fast in this community. We need to have healthy people. Don't fast even if you feel healthy. Drink as much as possible. Give tzedakah, charity, for the cost of a day's meals. increase Torah study, specifically the teachings of the Rebbe, engage in prayer, read Psalms, and decrease idle talk." Unquote. Fasting to get something from God is a very old idea and is found in the books of the Bible that come after the Torah. Consider the example of King David, who fasted so his sick son would live. Quote, "The Lord afflicted the child that Uriah's wife had borne to David, and it became critically ill. David entreated God for the boy. David fasted, and he went in and spent the night lying on the ground. On the seventh day, the child died. David asked his servants, 'Is the child dead?' 'Yes,' they replied. Thereupon David rose from the ground, bathed and anointed himself, changed his clothes, went into the house of the Lord, and prostrated himself. Then he went home and asked for food, which they set before him, and he ate. His courtiers asked him, 'Why have you acted in this manner? While the child was alive, you fasted and wept. But now that the child is dead, you rise and take food.' He replied, 'While the child was still alive, I fasted and wept because I thought, who knows, the Lord may have pity on me, and the child may live. But now that he is dead, why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he will never come back to me.' David consoled his wife Bathsheba. He went to her and lay with her. She bore him a son, and she named him Solomon." Unquote. So the fasting didn't work, and so David quickly moved on. But he got another son, destined to succeed him. Perhaps God wanted Solomon the wise and not the older son to succeed David. Or take the example of King Ahab. Quote, "When Ahab heard these words, he rent his clothes and put sackcloth on his body. He fasted and lay in sackcloth and walked about subdued. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah the Tishbite. 'Have you seen how Ahab has humbled himself before me? Because he has humbled himself before me, I will not bring disaster in his lifetime. I will bring the disaster upon his house in his son's lifetime.'" Unquote. So his fasting brought him a small but appreciable reprieve. Israel fasted to ask God for victory in war and got it. The book of Judges says, quote, "Then all the Israelites, all the army, went up and came to Bethel, and they sat there weeping before the Lord. They fasted that day until evening. The Lord then said, 'Tomorrow I will deliver your enemies into your hands.'" Unquote. Psalm 35 says, "Yet when they were ill, my dress was sackcloth. I kept a fast. May the thing for which I prayed happen to me." Evidently then, fasting sometimes works, sometimes doesn't, and sometimes works partway. Now, is fasting to get something from God a good idea? Not all rabbis thought so. They were divided. The Talmud says, quote, "Shmuel said, 'He who fasts is called a sinner.' Rabbi Elazar said, 'He is called holy only if he can fast with no harm to his body, because everyone has a duty not to damage his body.' Resh Lakish said, 'He is called pious.' Rabbi Sheshet said, 'The young yeshiva student who fasts is not meritorious.' Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba said that Resh Lakish said, 'A Torah scholar is not permitted to fast, because his fasting reduces his strength for the heavenly service of Torah study and mitzvot.'" Unquote. In Tosefta we read, quote, "Rabbi Yosei said, 'One has no right to afflict himself by fasting, lest he become a burden on the community, which will then have to provide for him.'" Unquote. Another story looks down even on praying for mercy. Quotes from the Talmud, "In the years of Rav Yosef, there was a divine anger, manifested by world hunger. The sages said to Rav Yosef, 'Let the master pray for mercy concerning this decree.' He said to them, 'Now the prophet Elisha would not pray for mercy at the time of divine anger and famine. So should I, who have much less merit, pray for mercy?'" Unquote. Fasting is practiced by mystics and Kabbalists. Hasidic Jews are opposed to it, as we saw earlier. Now, fasting for relief may have psychological effects even if it doesn't work, because it makes people feel they're not helpless, that there is something they can do to control the events around them. Going beyond fasting, the rabbis of the Talmud tried to slow the people's enthusiasm even for prayer. They said, don't overdo prayer. Don't ask God for too much. Don't pray for more than one thing at a time. Here's what the Talmud says. In the days of Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani, there was a famine and a deadly plague. People asked, what shall we do? Shall we pray for the removal of both? That is not possible. We do not pray for two things at a time. Let us then pray for the removal of the plague, and we will endure the famine. Thereupon Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani said to them, let us rather pray for the removal of the famine, because when the All-Merciful gives plenty, he gives it for the living, not for the dead. As it is said in the book of Psalms, you open your hands and give to each living thing according to his needs. How do we know that we do not pray for two things at the same time? Because it's written in Ezra, so we fasted and petitioned our God concerning this in the singular. This indicates that there were other things for which they could have prayed but didn't. In the land of Israel, it was reported in the name of Rabbi Haggai that it could also be deduced from this verse in Daniel. Implore the God of heaven for help concerning this mystery, in the singular. This implies that there were other things for which they could have prayed but didn't. Unquote. Nevertheless, people do pray for more than one thing at a time. Petitioning the divine comes naturally to most people, with or without the enhancement of fasting. Some people don't pray, believing it's like talking to a wall. There's this old joke about people praying at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. When their prayer is not answered, they say, it's like talking to a wall. Others believe prayer focuses mental energy and accomplishes its goal in mind-over-matter fashion. In that case, prayer is more likely to come to fruition when a lot of people are praying for the same thing at the same time, which is something the rabbis always encourage. Some believe the value of fasting is to focus the mind on the prayer. Others object, but does it if you're hungry? Most people believe prayer to be effective must be accomplished by giving something in return. A person, an animal, food, ornate objects, improved behavior, or some degree of comfort. Our tradition includes fixed prayers at fixed times, with the option to add others on your own. The rest is up to us. Shabbat Shalom.